Welcome to Project U 2.2, where my goal is to help you break barriers and step confidently into an elevated version of yourself. This podcast dives into mindset, growth, and creating the life you were meant to live. I'm Carrie, a former teacher turned leadership and growth mentor, helping people overcome self-doubt and embrace their next chapter. I believe you are your greatest project, and each week we'll explore the habits, stories, and strategies that help you break barriers, step into your potential, and level up your life. Let's get started. Today we are talking about something that almost every high achiever experiences, but few people admit: imposter syndrome. You know that feeling when you accomplish something, but instead of celebrating, you think, I don't deserve this, or in a minute, they might figure out that I'm a fraud and don't deserve this? That's imposter syndrome, and I want you to know if you are feeling it, you're in good company. I have felt that way many times in my life, and I want to share a story that goes way back to high school for me. When I was a senior in high school, I was voted onto the homecoming court. At a Friday night football game, before they announced who won King and Queen, they announced the first runner-up, a beautiful girl named Susan. Susan was our class president and was beloved by all. She was someone I had admired since middle school, and in my mind, I was sure she was going to be crowned homecoming queen that night. So when they announced my name as the winner, I couldn't believe it. I felt like it must be a mistake or maybe even a joke. If you're close to my age, you might remember the movie Carrie. Same name, same spelling as mine, where the whole prom queen thing was just a mean setup. That's how strong imposter syndrome can be. It convinces us that even good things might be some kind of joke at our expense instead of simply allowing us to accept that we were chosen and celebrate. Instead of fully celebrating that night and for the next week, part of me kept thinking about what some of my classmates might be thinking about. Like, why was I chosen? I felt like an imposter in my own moment. Later that same year, I went on to compete in the Miss Michigan Homecoming Queen pageant. Guess what? I felt the same imposter feelings all over again. After all 90 contestants went through interviews and performances, we waited while they calculated the results. I was so sure that I hadn't done well enough, I begged my parents to just leave so we could start our 3-hour drive back home. Then, the judges called the top 10, and I was shocked. Excited, but still doubting myself, I went on stage to answer a question in front of the judges and audience members. I was so nervous. Ultimately, I won and was crowned Miss Michigan Homecoming Queen, 1989. I remember standing there being thrilled with the joy of winning, being crowned with a big old tiara, having a leveled up sash put on me that said Miss Michigan Homecoming Queen, and a dozen roses thrown in my arms. I was smiling for the pictures and waving, but deep down, my smile quivered a little bit, and part of me couldn't believe that I had actually won and that I deserved it. This is what imposter syndrome feels like. Even when we achieve something big, we feel like we don't belong or that it was a mistake or that someone else deserves it more. Here's the truth. Those feelings aren't a signal that you're failing or that you don't deserve it. They are often a sign that you are stepping into growth, into something bigger than your comfort zone. The key is to keep showing up anyway, even when you feel like a fraud. Every time you do this, you prove to yourself that you do belong, that you are capable, and that you are ready to shine. Imposter syndrome is a psychological phenomenon where competent, capable people feel like they aren't truly deserving of their achievements. It often shows up as self-doubt, fear of failure, perfectionism, or feeling like you're faking it at school, work, or in your daily life. Research shows that nearly 70% of people experience it at some point, even people who seem confident or very accomplished. Do you know what the majority of people tend to do when faced with imposter syndrome? They respond out of fear. Here are 5 ways that hold them back from growth, and it sounds crazy, but it's easier to just avoid the opportunity. Sometimes we decline challenges or new roles because we don't feel ready or we have a fear of failure. Maybe you've declined a leadership position or didn't audition for something or didn't even sign up. Maybe you didn't go to college because you were afraid. A second thing that holds people back from growth is when people take on the challenge, but then they overprepare or overwork to try to compensate for their perceived inadequacy by working harder and striving for perfection. This often just leads to burnout, and it doesn't change our internal doubts. Third thing, we also sabotage our own efforts or lead to procrastination. When we feel like an imposter, we might wait for the perfect moment or delay something because we fear we might be exposed as inadequate. Fourth, we might minimize our achievements and downplay our accomplishments, saying it was luck instead of skill or effort. While we wouldn't do any of these things to other people, we bully ourselves into believing that we are not worthy. And the fifth one, the last one, we compare ourselves to others. We measure our own worth against others, thinking they are more capable or deserving. We've all heard the saying that comparison is the thief of joy, and isn't that true? Here's the key. Imposter syndrome is not a sign that you're failing. It's a sign that you are growing. The next time you feel or experience some fear or some imposter syndrome feelings, let fear be a signal, not a stop sign for you. Imposter feelings grow with intensity when we step outside of our comfort zones, when we are learning something new or growing. This is why teens often feel it so strongly. As a high school teacher, I saw this so many times. Everything is so new for them, from academics to sports to social situations, and stepping into new roles can feel scary for all of us. As a teacher and a mom, I often reminded myself of the times I felt like a fraud or an imposter. I saw this happen so many times with my own children and my students when they were trying out for a team, auditioning for a role, or running for a position. I would see and hear the same feelings that I had experienced when I was crowned homecoming queen. I sometimes saw students with so much potential doubting themselves, saying things like they weren't good enough or someone else deserved it more, or they wouldn't even try. Because of this, every year I would watch to see who might need a little push from me. For example, I knew that 2 commencement speakers were chosen from the graduating class every year. So I would scan my rosters to see who I should plant little seeds of inspiration to encourage them to audition. More often than not, my students hesitated at first, thinking they weren't ready or didn't belong. Once they took that first step, they grew in confidence and sometimes went on to excel in ways that shocked themselves. Self-doubt is natural, but the moment you show up anyway, even with fear and uncertainty, you give yourself a chance to shine and to discover just how capable you really are. When you're at the edge of your comfort zone, your brain will send a signal that can feel like fear or self-doubt, and you all know that inner voice that says, you're not ready. But it's actually your mind's way of telling you, you're about to grow. Pay attention. This is important. You're about to shine. So rather than seeing imposter syndrome as a weakness, see it as a signal that you are leveling up, that you're pushing yourself, learning, and stepping into your potential. The challenge is to acknowledge our fear, but to take action anyway. This is how we gain confidence and build mastery. So the next time you are experiencing some imposter syndrome, I want you to see it as a positive force. First, name it. When you hear that imposter voice in your head, acknowledge it. Talk to yourself, even if it sounds crazy, and say, this is that imposter syndrome showing up. I'm on the edge of growth. Second, reframe it. Instead of thinking, ooh, I don't belong, or I can't do this, try, I'm learning and expanding, and growth is uncomfortable, but watch out, world, here I come. Third, take small steps. Action is the antidote to fear. Let me repeat that. Action is the antidote to fear. Even one small step, accomplishment, speaking up in class, speaking up at work, trying a new skill, taking on a challenge, all of these build proof that you can do it. Finally, celebrate your wins. So often we try to be humble, and that's how we're raised, and we don't want to toot our own horns. And while we don't like people who are bragging, you can still celebrate. Document your success, no matter how small. Every time you do something, despite feeling like a fraud, you reinforce that you belong and are capable. If you are a teen or an adult or just starting something new, please hear me clearly. Feeling like a fraud is normal. You are not alone, and you are not failing. In fact, it's a sign that you're stepping into areas where you're about to shine. Everyone starts somewhere, and the early discomfort that we feel is exactly what prepares us for growth. Growth happens outside of our comfort zones, and the imposter syndrome is often the warning light that says, you're about to level up. Lean into it. Don't shy away. Here's my challenge for anyone out there listening. This week, I want you to notice one area in your life where imposter syndrome shows up. It probably happens more often than you think. And when that self-doubt voice speaks, label it, reframe it, and take one small step anyway. And at the end of the week, write down what you accomplished despite your feelings of being uncomfortable. You'll see that inner critic can become your signal that you are moving forward. Even if it's that you have a hard time getting out and going out into doing something in the social world because you just want to lay on your couch. When that self-doubt voice speaks, label it, reframe it, and take a small step anyway. Thank you for listening to Project U 2.2. Remember, feeling like a fraud doesn't mean you're failing. It means you are growing, stretching, and about to shine. If you enjoyed this episode, please share it with a friend, subscribe, leave a review so we can inspire even more people. Until next time, keep showing up for yourself, break through your barriers, and step confidently into your next chapter.